Hi everyone, my name's Tom. I'm a finished carpenter and woodworker, and I've been using the Milwaukee Packout system for years now to help me out in the shop and on the job site. I like to go over my EDC here, and I'll give you a little bit of a warning. Some people are going to hate this, some of you are going to love it, and there might be something in this video that's going to really tick a lot of people off. So just stick around and find out, and let's just go through it box by box. Alright, like I mentioned, I do use the Milwaukee Packout system. I'm not super brand loyal, it's not anything like that. I was just an early adopter of these modular boxes, and at the time Packout was the best. There's a lot of companies now that are pretty dang good, and I'm not going to sell all this to switch, but it's what I use. Use what you like. I don't care about brand, I really don't. But so the biggest thing is this drawer unit goes with me almost everywhere. We're going to start on the bottom. I do have the Milwaukee caster system here. It does a great job. I do like the locks. It was expensive. Everything Packout's expensive. And basically, this bottom section here, it's just where I keep my nailers. And there you have 18 gauge. Up here you have 15 gauge. Nothing fancy. I do love the Milwaukee nailers, but those are the only M18 tools that I actually have. The other thing you'll notice here is that I added this kind of level lizard type deal. This is an aftermarket company. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but I can include it in the description. But I always have a 4-foot level there. Then I always have this kind of 9-eyes yardstick. If you're measuring inside corners, it's just way easier to have this at your cut station. With that being said, this realistically sits by my cut station all the time, even in the shop. So I can always reach for these tools. I know where they are. And it's just been a really nice way to get in and out of the trailer quickly and just keep everything organized. I'm a big fan of all of these drawer systems. Not so much the fact that you can't keep small bits in these because they'll go everywhere, but all in all, kind of like what I have going here. It's just expensive. Okay, now we're getting to my upper system, which is a 3-drawer. This is where things get a little bit more interesting. And it starts off with this top drawer here. So we have the M12 pin nailers, some assorted pin nails, and the M12 stapler. I don't use this thing a lot, but I absolutely love it. It's been a good tool. Both of these, I had to have this rebuilt once already, but all in all, good tools. They live up here in the top. You go into the second drawer, and here we have the stud finder, which either it's broken or I need to lose weight. I don't know which. Some assorted spare batteries. These right here, Collin clamps. These are basically miter clamps, spring action. And they're fantastic for doing door casings, things like that. Just clamp things up till the glue dries. Basically, a ton of pocket hole screws. Anytime you're doing wainscoting, things like that, pocket hole screws are really the way to go. Small, portable pocket hole jig. I used this strictly for years. I have a better one in the shop now. And drill bits and some more screws, things like that. Then over here, I have the M12 Dremel. And really, I only use this for coping. Basically, I'll go through with a coping saw and then take these little sander drum bits here just to clean things up after doing it by hand. There's a lot of ways to cope. Do what works for you. I don't really give a shit as long as it's nice and tight and quick. But basically, all the extra bits and bobs for that. Getting into our bottom drawer here, I have my fuel Gen, I don't know, 2 or maybe 3, I don't know where they're at, but impact driver. I actually love this little impact driver. It's not, doesn't have 18-volt power obviously, but it's super useful. And then assorted magnetic bits, some different lengths, basically everything you could possibly need. Then we have the M12 3-inch sander. I kind of hate this thing. As a woodworker, I hate it. As a carpenter on a job site, I love it. I could do a full review of this if you're interested. But here's a sander that I do absolutely love all the time. It just doesn't have dust collection. Is this detail sander here. This thing's an absolute beast. It gets into all sorts of nooks and crannies. use the crap out of that in the wood shop, on the job site, everything. I absolutely love that thing. Here's sort of the upper part of that level lizard. And then on the side, there was an aluminum bracket. This was 100% of my bad. I'm not hating on this company at all. I had this in the trailer, pulled out the rolling stack, walked away. I didn't have the casters locked. Came back, I was parked on an incline. This was on its side. I bent the crap out of this, but otherwise a half width Packout would slide in here, and that was cool. I really didn't use it all that much anyways, but all in all, I would recommend this product. I could probably bang it back out, but that's what I keep in this upper box here, and use this in the shop and on the job site all the time. It's been extremely useful. All right, so before I went to this, I used to use this open tool bag here, and I like it and everything, but the problem was it just spilled all the time. I don't like to zip up tool bags because I have a lot of sharp pointy bits in here, and I don't like reaching my hand in those tight spaces. With this thing, if it was going to spill in the trailer, it was always this that spilled in the trailer. My tools are everywhere. It ends up being a catch-all full of junk at the end of the day. And I really thought about the Packout tool bags, but they were so much money I just couldn't justify it. So instead, all of my very carpentry specific hand tools live in this thing here. So let's go ahead and get into it. So inside this box, this first tray, flush trim saw, my Narix overpriced scribing knife, bunch of files, my beater chisels, sort of a gauge to kind of determine your gaps. It's basically quarter down to 1/16. Then a card scraper. Beneath that, some cheapo job site, don't care about block planes. And then my digital angle finder for the table saw. This is just a cheapo version too. I have a nicer version for the shop. In the center, mallet. I have a lot of hammers, but basically this is just what's in this box. And I'll kind of fill up my tool bags from there. Carpenter square, small carpenter square, blue tape so I don't mar finished surfaces. Actually, my better Stanley Sweetheart block plane that shouldn't be in here. Trim puller. It's expensive, but it's actually really nice. It'll save you a lot of headache with drywall. Extra blades. The Craig Multi-Mark. I use this thing surprisingly a lot on the job site. Kind of a Empire, I don't know what you would call this. Technically the name of it is skipping me, but basically it's for finding different angles and marking them without actually having to find the angles. The Lufkin tape measures and the night eyes. I suffer greatly from a disease called CSS. Can't see shit, so I really like these tape measures. Chalk box. The good old-fashioned coping saw. I do cope everything by hand. Like I said, assorted pry bars. This little guy right here is worth its weight in gold by far. We got some nail punches. If you haven't seen these right here, I highly recommend them. Basically, it's a fantastic nail set. Also, you can pop hinges out of doors really easy with this. Speaking of door hinges, you have this little knuckle wrench. If you have installed a lot of doors, especially cheap doors that the contractor orders, you'll know that they're always screwed up. And this is kind of a nice little tool to sort of bend hinges to make it actually work the way you want it to work. Again, scribing. These things are nice anytime you're dealing with stone, things like that. These little gauges are pretty cool. I highly recommend these. I don't think there's any specific brands better than another one. These little, here's a good one for you. These little foam pad sanders here, I love them for contours. You can buy them at Sherwin-Williams, but they're the 3M Pro Pads. They come in different grits. They will not last forever. They're pretty disposable, but definitely worth having. And we get to this side here. This top box, knife, marking utensils, pinch dogs. These are a must-have. And then you get into this last one. We have more scribing tools. mini torpedo, another pry bar, compass, great for scribing, miter gauge. If you're doing any kind of miter work, especially in a house where it's unpredictable, this is a fantastic tool to have. You don't have to get the fancy aluminum one. And then the digital angle finder, which I use very rarely, but it's there if I need it. All right, these two boxes here, they're not that fancy, but must-haves. Basically, I have a bunch of different drill bits, some different drivers, things like that. My speed outs that barely work. The old spattle bits. These are useful sometimes, even though they're rough as hell. And then jigsaw blades live in here for some reason. Biggest ones here are the Bosch. These are the self-centering drill bits. This particular brand right here seems to be the best ones that I've found, and I've used a bunch of them. Amazon. And then also the old countersink bit. I would say those two drill bit styles are like my most used on a job site, especially doing cabinetry. So that's as fancy as this box is going to be. The one below it, even less fancy, but it's basically all my different screws, wood screws. I have a couple of sort of, you never know when you're going to need them, but trim head screws. I do keep some shelf pins in here, some washers, drywall fasteners, and then I've been using these sort of Spax wood screws. I really haven't found a quality wood screw that I like, especially not one that's super available. And then one other thing that you gotta always have is here, Irish springs. Basically, I just use these like wax for driving screws, especially in hardwood. Makes life much easier. And it smells decent. So I always have in my tool belt, in my screw boxes, a little bit of Irish springs. Goes a long way. Sticking with fasteners, I actually need to restock this box a little bit, but this one here is gonna have all of my nails that I use, finish nails, 18s, 15s, 23 gauge pin nails. These finish nails here, which honestly I use these more to hold up crown when I'm installing crown molding. I don't think I've driven that in ever. And then cabinet screws, a bunch of these sort of panhead style cabinet screws, different lengths, all the way up into some of these here big boys. And then a few more trim head screws, more drywall fasteners. I hate using them, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Fasteners, that's exciting as fasteners get. All right, getting into some of these half boxes. So this guy right here kind of rotates. It's basically a job specific box. And right now I'm doing a lot of door installs. So I built a lot of white oak doors and using some heavy duty hinges. So heavy duty screws, and then the magnets on top I'm using this Forstner bit. But basically, bits and bobs that I'm going to be using for the specific job. Here's a nice little giant door hinge style self-centering bit, but it's been working so far, more so. But yeah, basically this box right here just kind of takes care of what I need at that time, and then when the job's done I'll swap it out, see what the next one is. This box is my in general hand tools. So literally just screwdrivers, pliers, a socket set, crescent wrench, 90 degree tool, like just literally general random hand tools that you need. And then in this box, my kind of knockoff clamp, the old school miter clamps. I actually really like these. I'm probably going to invest in a bunch more of them. But I used them for some picture frame style cabinet doors. I use them on door casings, window casings, things like that. I could almost do a full video on these, but I really like these miter clamps a lot. So that's kind of where these live. All right, this is probably the most important box on the entire job site because it literally keeps everything running. This is a Milwaukee cooler. It's fantastic for the beach when you want to recool. You can lock your mug in there and then carry the whole thing down without spilling it. Everyone loves it. But throughout the week, this is my coffee box. So I found this little single serve, not Keurig brand, but K-Cup coffee maker, and then I keep a mug on it. I do all remodeling, so I always have power and I have water. And yeah, so it just saves me a ton of money. I consume enough coffee a day to kill the average man, and maybe it's the ADHD, I don't know. But yeah, this one keeps me from having to leave the job site, which saves me a ton of money. Okay, this box is a complete and total disaster, and I need to find a new system for it because it's just, I got too much stuff in here. But this is my cabinetry box. So these upper trays just have a assortment of crap. Magnetic thing when you're installing cabinet doors, having this on your wrist is pretty nice. A set of side cutters for anytime you're installing drawer slides. I do a lot of cabinet painting, so I'm like putting in new hardware often, and you got to cut down your screws frequently. Edge banding cutter. Going from there, another stud finder. This one's broken too. I need to change life choices apparently. I'm just fat. Bumpers. Here's a bunch of different brass shelf pins. Random drill bits. These are all the accessories for my installation driver. This is part of the cabinet door hanger, which I kind of actually like. We'll set that aside. But 12-volt installation driver. Did an entire video on that, comparing them. Then, kind of random squeeze clamp, always nice to have. Face frame clamps. If you're installing a lot of cabinets, getting a nice lineup. You don't have to have these, but they definitely are nice to have. Recommend those. The old Craig. I don't jig for boring out Euro hinge holes. That's what that's called. This is my, you can see I really baby this, but this is my jig for doing hardware. Highly recommend that. Shelf pin holes. This is the Craig other part. This is basically to help you hang cabinet doors even the same way. Again, I do a ton of cabinet painting. This is kind of useful. I like it. Again, you don't need it for rolling on edge banding as I press. And then a whole slew more of these. Again, these foam pads that I was talking about. Yeah, I need a better system. There's just too much clutter going on here. That's my cabinet box. All right, as promised, trigger warning. Here's where you're gonna get a little bit butthurt. Now, to be fair, this rolling box, I know everyone hates it. I personally don't mind it. I don't have a ton of cover, but this box right here could be like 50 Festool sustainers. I know a lot of people like having an individual box for every tool. I don't have time for any of that crap. So basically, all of my 20-volt tools live in this box. Yeah, I said 20 volt because I keep my yellow stuff in this red Milwaukee box. And I know some of you really aren't gonna like that, but I don't care. I have no brand loyalty whatsoever. This thing's kind of empty right now, but basically all my 20-volt drills, drivers, router, multi-tool, sander. I literally only use this sander for, I'll put like 80 grit on it, and then when I'm scribing a line, I can kind of use this to sort of creep up to the line real nice. Big boy impact driver, and then some of the bits and bobs that go with it. You know, standard, basic, have to have it carpentry stuff goes in this box here.